From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to you. Weather Weeklies is back for the 2020-2021 winter season. This is done every single Sunday morning and released about this time in the morning, between 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning. This is a look at the next 5 to 6 weeks and any storm signals that we have on the horizon, primarily, under normal circumstances. Right now, we are sitting here on November 8th. It is the first Weather Weeklies video of the season. This is starting at normal schedule, and we just happen to be in a very warm pattern with no prospects for snow here in the next 2 weeks. So when we look beyond that point, typically we usually speculate. And the reason I say we speculate is because I'm only comfortable, if you look at our long-range outlooks on Friday, sticking to a 5 to 6 week lead time as far as looking at the long range. I realize that there are many seasonal outlooks out there as far as winter's concerned, winter outlooks and done throughout the year. And more power to anybody that wants to do that. That's fine. I'm telling you, they're a waste of time. They're a waste of time, and they're more speculative rather than fact. Okay, it is what it is. Anybody that tells you that they know exactly how winter is going to play out, or any season for that matter, and they expect to nail it 100% of the time, is fooling themselves. Okay, every once in a while you can get lucky. But this isn't a flip a coin thing. If I'm going to release something to the public, I want it to be as accurate as possible. And we tried in the past, and it just some years we did very well. Other years we thought it would go a certain way, and then it got to a certain point. Like last year, for example, we had November, December done just right, but after that point, it kind of just took a nosedive because there's no way to project the things that messed it up, like the IOD last year messed it up. The polar vortex was too strong, messed it up. Okay. It eventually weakened toward the end of the season. That's great, but winter's over by that point, right? So we had very little snow overall last year across the region, and many of you were disappointed. So why put you through that disappointment? I'm not going to sit here and speculate in an official winter outlook. I will speculate in these videos, though. So this video is an example of that. So I will get into that here in this video. Here is our coverage area for those that are not familiar with what our coverage area is. And I say that because we have a lot of, this gets posted on YouTube. We have a lot of YouTube followers that are outside of these particular areas. So when I'm talking about anything is in this outlook, I'm only referring to these areas specifically. And when I talk about the interior, I'm talking about anything generally northwest of the fall line, which is I-95. Okay, anything northwest of there is I-95. That's generally... That's not exact, of course, but anything northwest of there is the interior, and then the far interior would be up in these regions here, up northeast PA, north central PA. Coastal plain is down, of course, in these regions. All right, so when I refer to that, that's what I'm talking about. These areas in the middle here, though, you're going to have some battlegrounds during the winter. We've seen that plenty of times in past years. But I start off these outlooks with the long range from Friday. So this is the same thing you saw on Friday. This is not updated. This is updated once a week. So every Friday we have this long range chart come out, and this has a breakdown of the periods of what we expect with regard to temperature and above average, slightly below average, that kind of thing, going straight forward into the 5 to 6 week lead time period. So this takes us to December 21st, and that's it. And we stop. I don't go into January, February. There's no point. All right, because it's going to change. This is a variable. There's a reason long-range outlooks are updated every single week. There's a reason that I do these Weather Weeklies videos every week, because things evolve and change, and you have to adjust on the fly. You get a pretty good sense of what's going to come, but these can change around a little bit. Now, right now, this still looks good from what I saw on Friday. 2 days usually doesn't change that much. Once you get a week from now, that might have changed for some of these periods, especially the further out you go. So just keep that in mind. And also, down here where we have snowfall listed, near to slightly below average in November we have, and December we have near average snowfall. A lot of people are saying, well, what does that mean? What's average? Well, it depends on what area you live in, okay? So that will change, and I'll get into that in a second too. Here is the next 7 days. This is actually the Saturday to Saturday period between yesterday and the 14th. All right, so obviously above average temperatures, that's not a surprise. Once we get into the second week, between the 15th, this is next Sunday, a week from today through the following Sunday, They have generally near to maybe slightly above average temperatures across our region here. And if you look at the scale, it's kind of like +2. Okay. Now this is a little misleading though, because I think the beginning of that period is going to be warmer than the end of that period. So this is a 7-day average. So I saw these. I saw a weather a Euro Weeklies projection, or excuse me, Euro Monthlies that came out earlier this week, plastered all over Twitter. Showing that it's going to be a blowtorch for the months of December, January, February. Not necessarily accurate. I'll show you that in a second, too. Now, as far as snowfall, or false temperature, let's get the temperatures first. Here's temperatures. This is what average is, and I'm going to use Lehigh Valley International Airport here, because not only because I live in the northern part of Lehigh Valley, everybody seems to think that, but this is kind of like the center point of our region. If you looked at our coverage area map, this is kind of like right in the middle. Okay, so if you look at these temperatures here, this is the projection for the next 2 weeks on the GFS ensemble. I can put up the European ensemble here, be very similar. Okay, obviously very warm to start here in this period, and if you go down through these periods here where it gets a little cooler, if you live up in places like Williamsport, Wilkes-Barre, maybe shave a couple degrees off of these temperatures here. Again, this is the center part, and if you live, conversely, if you live in Philadelphia or toward Philadelphia, South Jersey, Delaware, you might add a couple degrees to these temperatures here, okay? So obviously there's some fluctuation here. So I took the middle ground here. 70 degrees today for a high here on the GFS ensemble in Allentown. Normal high for this date right here is 56, okay? So obviously that's well above average, and we have that reflected. Once we get a week from now to the 15th, the normal high here is now 53. So you can see the temperature, the normal highs are dropping as you're going forward. But this period right in here, this is very close to average, maybe slightly above. Okay, right in here. See, it is cooler, and you're going to hear it next week. People are going to say, oh, wow, it turned a lot cooler back to autumn again. That's average, what it should be. Not necessarily, I mean, relative to this, obviously, it's cooler, but it's not, it's not below average. Once we get into here, in this range here, this still isn't that far removed from average. Once we get to the 22nd of November, for example, the average high here in Allentown is 50. So you're sitting here 47, 48, maybe very slightly below average right in here, okay? But it's still not really cold, okay? You might have a tip down here right just before Thanksgiving here. I think might be a trough coming here. Again, this is day 15 or 16, so we're looking at some variability there that can change, okay? But generally, these periods are showing a general downward trend of temperatures, but it's really not getting cold relative to average. It's still just isn't going to get to near average eventually. So as far as snowfall is concerned, this is a look at what average snowfall is. Not a lot of snowfalls in the month of November. Not a lot. These are very small amounts of snow. And you can get these from an episode of Snow Squalls or a clipper coming through, a very minor system. So this is not a lot of snow here annually during the month of November expected across our region. Now, I took these stations here because these are major climo stations, and they break down. These areas keep official records. There are some areas in between there that have some variability, but just find the area closest to where you're at from one of these and just pick it, and that's where you're going to have what your average snow, or pretty close to it for your area. December, it steps up quite a bit, okay, but it's still not as high as it will be in January and February. So when we say near average, it's not going to be difficult to get these amounts of snow during the month of December. Now, I'm going to hear people saying, oh, well, everybody's saying December is going to be warm, really warm. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, you're going to have some warm periods in December. When you're looking at a map that covers 31 days, and you do a 31-day temperature composite, and you're seeing temperatures of +2, +3 Fahrenheit, that doesn't mean it's going to be +2, +3 the entire month. You're going to have a week, or 3, 4, 5-day period where temperatures are in the 60s, and then the next week you could be tanking down to 20s and 30s. That happens. Okay, there's some variability, and especially in this winter going forward, I think you're going to have some variability as far as the temperatures are concerned. We're going to have weeks like that. In January, you're going to have temperatures in the 50s and 60s for 4, 5, 6 days, and then next week is going to be brutal. And it's going to go back and forth and back and forth. You're going to have that for a while. That is typical of a La Niña pattern. So let's get into the La Niña now, okay? La Niña pattern is definitely established, and that's a fact. El Niño would be up in these regions here. La Niña's down here. So we are actually rated a moderate La Nina level, right around negative 1.5. All right, that is a moderate La Nina, and that is expected to hold through the entirety of winter. Might start to climb out of it once we get late in the winter. Okay, but that's the negative 1.5 is a moderate La Nina. What it looks like here in the reflected in the sea surface temperatures, which is of course how you get El Nino or La Nina, is a colder than average, anomalously colder than average area here along the equatorial eastern Pacific. This is from the central Pacific near the date line, which is right about here, moving all the way to the Peruvian coast. And you can see these blues here, representative of colder than average temperatures, sea surface temperatures, and that is where your La Nina is. Okay, so right in these regions right here, this is your La Nina. Okay, if this were El Nino, these would be red, orange and red. And you do see warm water, and that's representative of warmer than average waters, and you can see plenty of that along the Canadian and U.S. west coast, actually all the way around. You have temperatures at least slightly above average here in the Gulf of Mexico and along the U.S. East Coast. So we're pretty much surrounded by warm air here, but there's colder, warmer temperatures, sea surface temperatures. But down here is in the La Nina range is what we're concerned about, especially in these areas right in here in the middle there, which is the 3.4 region, which pretty much affects the jet stream and how we have our sensible weather affected by La Nina. Okay, so here is in a typical paintbrush. I call this a paintbrush La Nina because this is what the average composite is, I guess you would say, of what a La Nina pattern would yield. Okay, you have a variable polar jet stream. Variable means it's not going to be exactly right where this is. Okay, it is not going to be right there every single time. So you have this in the middle here, right? There's going to be times that instead it's going to be more cutting through like this, through the Great Lakes, and that's going to invite warm air here to come over our region and some lake cutters. Storms taking that path through the Great Lakes from the southern plains to the Great Lakes. Other times it's going to be down a little bit further south, and that's going to give us colder air, shots of colder air. So this variability is what we're talking about. We're going to have 1 week that's going to be, you could have 1 week that's really warm, and next week it's going to be cold and you could have some snow. Timing that colder air is what's going to be conducive to how much snow we get, okay? So there's going to be some variability there, and we expect that throughout the entirety of the winter. So this paintbrush La Nina pattern just gives you a general sense. It is going to be wetter than average in the Tennessee and Ohio valleys up through the eastern Great Lakes. We do think that's going to be, that's a pretty much a certainty. Okay, so here is the El Nino and La Nina years over the past, well, this is since 1950, okay? All these different years that here you can list it as far as analogs. So look at the moderate La Ninas. This is where we're going to be. There's 4 of them here, 55, 56, 70, 71, 95, 96, and 2011, 2012, okay? Only 2 of these were first-year La Ninas, meaning that the year before was an El Nino, okay? And you can look back at this. Here's 50, 55, 56. Well, this is not a first year because this is the year before that. It was a weak La Nina, okay? 70, 71 was. 70, 71 was, okay? And you can look back into the year before this in 1969 and 1970, which was a weak El Nino, okay? 95, 96, if you go back to 1994, 1995, where is it? Hold on. Okay. I had these all like right here. Here we go. 94, 95 was a moderate note. So you went from a moderate El Nino to a moderate La Nina. And this year, the most recent one, 2011, 2012, was on the heels of 2010, 2011. And that's somewhere too. I'm not able to scan these charts fast enough. So you have these one going from the other. I think that was a neutral year before, and that's why it's not showing. But either way, those are the 4 years that we're looking at. So when I broke these down, 4 moderate La Nina winters were classified as such as 1950. They are as follows. So 55, 56, snowfall was slightly above average. So season got off to a slow start. A lot of these in a lot of these years you're going to see here, they got off to a slow start and then kicked in later. All right, so there was no notable events to end 1955, and then January and February slight increase in snow activity, but still on a below average pace, and then March saved the day, so to speak, in 55, 56 with some sizable storms. Near average in 70 to 71, and winter again didn't start off until December Biggest month was January, and then several nickel and dime events followed in February, March. The season ended up with near average snowfall. 95, 96 is on here too. This is a well above average snowfall. Of course, this is the year that we had the blizzard of 96. But even without that blizzard, it was this is the key thing. It finishes a top 5 winter and would have been above average even if the blizzard never had happened. So you can't count on blizzards to save the day necessarily, but the overall pattern here was above average regardless. It ended up a top 5 winter. 2011, 2012 was the year we had the late October snow, and it was a crippling snow in some areas, and we really didn't see much the entire winter after that. Matter of fact, you had more from that particular system than the rest of the year in most cases. So you got some analogs there, but no real conclusiveness with it. Here's the Euro monthlies. And this is what I had to bring up in arms here for the period between December, January, and February. Again, this is misleading. This is showing a +2 to +3 temperature anomaly for that period. You can see the scale down here. And this is degrees Celsius. So this is actually quite warm. But this is also not breaking it down exactly how each month plays out. Okay, it's not doing that. And on the other side, the European seasonal tends to have a warm bias. Everybody knows that, okay? So this is probably a little bit too warm. It might have the right idea with warmer temperatures, but you can still get warmer than average temperatures in December, January, and February when it's already really cold to begin with. And if you're +2, that's not going to make a huge difference. It might for the coastal plain. It might not so much for the interior, okay? So keep that in mind. Here's the CFSv2 Monthly. Everybody mocks this one here, but this is a little bit more realistic. Might be a little bit too cold for this entire period here, but it does indicate that December starts off a little slightly warmer and then it backs off to cooler in January and February. All right, so I think the theme here is through the end of the year anyway, we're going to start off warmer than average. All right, in both November and December. Can you still get snow when it's warmer than average? Sure. Is it going to stick around? Probably not. You might get some shots of cold air and get a little bit of snow associated with it, and it disappears as it warms up the week after that. Okay, and I think we're going to have that. You have a shot at snow here at the end of the month. Might not be much, and it doesn't look like much. You have a shot at snow here, kind of right around Thanksgiving-ish, somewhere around there. And then in December, you're going to have those periods too. You're going to have some weeks that are going to be above average, and it's going to skew the monthly mean, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to have colder periods mixed in there that can give you some snow. Now, the biggest thing I think is going to be driving this next 2 months, at least, like the rest of this month and also the month of December, is the polar vortex. So there's just 31 members that are showing a strong polar vortex. This is what kind of one of the reasons that last year did not do so well. You had a strong polar vortex. This didn't initiate or become strong last year until December, the end of December, and then it carried through basically the snow months, and it finally wanted to get colder when winter was ending, but then it was at the point where temperatures were too high, so you kind of had some slop events at the very tail end last year, especially in the interior. And then you also had, we had snowflakes flying on May 9th last year once this vortex broke down. So the fact that this is coming in a little bit earlier gives me hope for later in the season, that February, like at least middle of February on through March, are going to be a snowy time around here. If I had to guess, again, this is speculative. This is not an official forecast of mine, but I'm just saying, starting off and seeing this as far as the strength of the polar vortex early in the season looks like that we're going to start off slow. Okay, and I do think we're going to start off rather slow. You can still get near average snowfall in December, though, because, again, you're timing those colder periods. There will be some mixed in. They may be transient, but if you have something timed right, you can easily get those amounts of snow that I showed you. All right, so we're going to also be looking at the Madden-Julian Oscillation a lot through this winter, and if you're looking at where it is right now, it's in a weak phase 8 signal, and it's going to go into phase 1 through about the middle of the month and then collapse into circle of death is what is shown here. This is usually you're jumping up and down, and if it's in winter, if you're a snow lover, because this is a very, very good phases to be in. Right now, they're not great phases to be in. Here's phase 8 showing the warmer temperatures. That's what we have right now. Phase 1, that's what we have right now. Okay, so this is what we're in right now. These are not good phases in the fall months. They are in winter. So we're going to keep watching that. And update that every single week, because that's going to change every single week too. Here is the 46-day total snowfall on the Euro Weeklies, the most recent run that ran on Thursday evening. This goes all the way through December 20th, the evening of December 20th, and this is the total snowfall in that period. Now this is an ensemble mean, so this is not going to be exact. This is a blend of 51 members, or 50 members, I'm sorry, 50. And this is what they average out to. So there's some snow here, some snow opportunities, okay? And they're going to come in those colder periods that I spoke about. It's not going to be always warm. You're going to have some warmer periods, certainly. But it's not going to be every single week. And I think you're going to have that going straight through January. You're going to have this alternating warm, cold, maybe even early February. To get more consistently cold and bigger snow opportunities, or I think, again, or we're going to be waiting until February and March for the bigger potential. But we have, up until that point, you still have opportunities for snow that can be, get you kind of near average, nickel and dime kind of stuff. Up until that point, it can still be disruptive. They might not sit in the ground too long. You might get 4, 5, 6 inches of snow, and then a couple days later, you have temperatures in the 50s again, and it melts. Okay? You're going to have a lot of that variability this year, I think. Okay? So just keep that in mind going forward. Don't be discouraged by these long-range forecasters showing immense amounts of warmth coming in here. Maybe the overall pattern, again, the average of the 30 or 31 days in a month might end up +2, +3. That doesn't mean you're not going to get snow that month. That's a 30-day average. You could have some weeks that are very warm, others that are colder, and it all averages out at the end to be +2, +3, but doesn't mean no snow, obviously, as you can see here. All right, so just to summarize here, going over the 20-minute mark, I know it's the first one of the season. I just wanted to discuss all that so we get that all out there. The temperatures will remain above average in November and leaning warmer than average in December, but there will be some transient colder windows, as I spoke about. It's not going to be just paintbrush warm and that's it. And certainly not as warm as we are right now. That's going to be, this is just a transient thing. It's going to be ending by the time we get to the middle of the week. Again, we're going to be stepping down a little bit, as I showed you in that temperature graph. Moderate La Niña pattern is expected through the winter months, but uncertainties exist with the 2021 portion of winter and how the PV responds. If this polar vortex breaks down sooner, that we have as showing as strong right now through the middle of December, if that breaks down a little quicker, then we might not have to wait until, February and March for that to happen. If it breaks down and we get some colder air intrusions, I think the PV is going to play a big role this year on how that plays out. If it remains strong this whole winter, which is highly doubtful, usually doesn't do it for an entire winter, but if it does, it is possible that you could end up with a winter that's very lackluster. The biggest takeaway from this outlook that I want you to remember, though, winter outlooks are nothing more than speculation. Take it with a grain of salt. We are going to stick with a 5 to 6 week lead time. I'll speculate, and I will mark it as speculation in these videos. Going forward, when I talk about things down the road that are beyond 6 weeks, hey, the pattern's looking like it's going to trend this way, it's going to trend that way. I will do that, but it's going to be speculative in nature. Okay, things can change. And if you're trying to write an outlook here in November and trying to project that into March, nobody can do that with accuracy. I'm sorry, you just can't. So keep that in mind going forward. And we will adjust these every single week, of course, and talk about any new developments throughout the entire winter. The My Pocket Meteorologist and EPAWA Premium Forum, this is the winter subscriptions. A lot of you have signed up for this already. We actually started this early because we had an end of October thread already. Some alerts went out already for this. Obviously not right now because there's not really anything happening. It's warmer, but that will change again as we head, especially towards the end of the month. Click on this banner below the video here. It'll take you to the My Pocket Meteorologist sign-up page where you can sign up for their services, where we really discuss everything ahead of time. Is going to be the EPAWA Premium Forum. The text alerts are the, you just get a text alert sending to your county for amounts, timing, things like that, for what to expect for an upcoming winter event or any impactful event, even if it's rain. We still send those too if they're impactful. And the Premium Forum is where we really discuss and interact with all of you. So the meteorologists on staff will interact with all of you and answer any questions you may have, go into very detailed model analysis of what we're looking at for an upcoming storm. So this is pretty cool and a lot of interaction with this. A lot of people learned a lot of things, and the people that are members of the forum can attest to that. Is a very big thing. So look at click on this image. Look for this image right below the video here. Click on that. I'll take you to My Pocket Meteorologist page where you can sign up for those services. And I hope to see you all in the Premium Forum. That's this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 8th. Join us again next week, of course, the 15th. We will, again, look at the week, next 5 to 6 weeks from that point, make any adjustments as needed. And again, I'll speculate on the longer range and see if there's anything that's changed at that point. Take care.